Hey guys, I had a workshop, a mediumship workshop, the other night, and I wanted to come on and talk about just a few things that a few things that I learned, a few things that struck with me during the workshop, about my mediumship and maybe where I've been going wrong with the mediumship and some things that I could do better or some misconceptions that I had. So I just thought it might be helpful for somebody else, who is on the mediumship journey. I've been doing it for 4 years and I'm still finding things, that I'm doing wrong. And I think that's like a lifetime thing. We're always going to find something that we can do better, or we've been doing wrong, or a misconception that we had around mediumship and how it works and why it works and all of that. So a medium is always in development. Um, Yes. So my workshop was with Charlie Kelly, who I cannot recommend enough. I've watched all of his YouTube videos and I've been on several workshops, not nearly enough as I would like to be on, but I have been on a few of them and always get something from them. And I will link his channel below when I'm finished the video. Um, yes, go over to his YouTube and he has got hundreds of development videos on mediumship, that are so helpful. Yeah, so a few things that I found helpful, or things that I learned on this workshop. So I had just a list here of a few things. So the first one is what surrendering really means. I hear people talking about surrendering to spirit when you're doing a reading. And I think when they say surrender, when Charlie says surrender, he's talking about, you know, not trying to force the information that's coming through, not trying to force it. So, not having a format, a specific format of like, I'm looking for who they are, what their job was, how they died, all of this kind of stuff. So I'm not looking for specific things. I'm just trying to let them tell their story. So that's the surrender, which I thought I was doing. I actually really did think like I've got that. I let them tell their story, until I realized during this class that actually I wasn't surrendering as much as I thought, because when I started my readings, I was going straight for, is it a man or is it a woman? And that in itself is a format. It's not surrendering, because the way that he put it was that I won't continue the reading unless I get this information, which I didn't really realize I was doing. It was just something that I did out of habit. So that really struck with me, that maybe I could not do that and just start to bring someone through. And if they want to tell me who they are, male or female, then that's fine, but maybe not rely on that first piece of information for the reading to go ahead. Because it would, I know from learning to surrender, the rest of the reading, that it does go really smoothly when you let it do that. The story goes where they want it to go, instead of me holding them to the format, of the different pieces of information that I might want. It's not about me. It's about the sitter who has come for a reading. I learned about the importance of explaining mediumship when someone's coming for a reading. Somebody asked the question of, or no, I don't think somebody asked the question. It was more of a explanation from Charlie, that sometimes people are coming for a psychic reading and they don't understand the difference, or they think that it's a mixture of psychic and mediumship, and that can cause a bit of friction in the reading when somebody isn't getting what they wanted, or what they expected. So that's important. Yeah, just to kind of explain, if you're going to do a reading for somebody, just explain what it is that you're doing, what they can expect from you. And that sometimes, the way that the information comes through, sometimes that you need to think about how that is in relation to your person in spirit. I'm trying to think of an example. Like if I saw an airplane and, I could explain that, I might see an airplane and I might say airplane to you, and you might say no, I don't understand an airplane with my person in spirit. But then I might say, oh, would you understand that they were a pilot? And they'll, or maybe that's the first thing that I would have said. Would you understand that they're a pilot? Because I'm seeing an airplane, and they say no. And so that's my fault, because I have I have put a story in there. I've interpreted that in the wrong way. So then I go back and I say, oh, actually, would you understand that they loved to travel? And that's why I'm seeing an airplane. And then they say yes, so explaining to them that that's sometimes how that the readings work when it comes to the information that's coming through. So they're going to understand a little bit more throughout the reading, which is always helpful. And what else did we... oh, yeah, so one was why we shouldn't continue if the sitter doesn't know the person in spirit personally, and so this is a big one, because I learned early on, somebody said to me, a tutor had said to me that, spirits sometimes come through to give us a message, and sometimes it's a very obscure spirit, is what I had been told, so it could be somebody very close, a close relation, it could be a grandparent or a cousin, or it could be your old neighbor, things like that. Which I had kind of kept hold of, and I try not to hold on to the beliefs too much around this, because I know from Charlie Kelly that, sometimes we hold on to stuff and it's way easier than that. It should be so much easier than that. So I had kind of held on to this, oh, well, sometimes obscure spirits just come through. And whenever I go for a reading, mainly in practice, whenever I have a reading in practice, my grandmother comes through, which is lovely. And I have learned a lot about her through having her come through for readings, which has been really nice. But I never knew her in person. She passed away a few months after I was born. So she comes through and I can validate some of the information, but sometimes it's like, oh, I don't really know about that thing. I didn't really know her in person. So I didn't, but when you're in a reading, especially in a practice setting, we don't want to feed the medium. If somebody comes to me for a reading, sometimes they will blab all about their person. And, as much as I say, don't give me too much information, they like talking about their person. And it's, it is what it is. But especially in a practice setting, we try not to give each other too much information, because we don't want to be fed the information. We want to try and pull that out ourselves. So I have always just let them do the reading. And, I don't know. Yes, I know that thing. I'm not sure about that thing, and just kind of continue the reading. And I said afterwards, like, at what point do I tell the medium that I didn't know this person personally? Because I think that has a massive effect on how the reading goes. If the medium knows that, look, I didn't know this person personally, or yes, I was really close with this person in life, I think it does have a big difference on how the reading goes. And Charlie immediately said, tell them straight away. Tell them straight away, because it does have a big difference. And how, the way that he put it was, somebody's coming for a reading, they want their person that is in spirit, that they missed, that they loved, and that they, and it's not that I didn't love my grandmother. I've loved getting to know who she was and things like that. But when I go for a reading, I want my person to come through, the person that I have in spirit that pushed me to get into mediumship. Yeah, so that made sense. That made a lot of sense to me. And it's something that I hadn't really thought of before. I always was under the impression, again, from earlier tutors and stuff, that it was rude to tell that spirit to leave, like, oh, if they're coming through for a reason, they have a message for you, which is lovely and it's really nice. But I think that also, and Charlie had said that the people in spirit want the client to have their amazing reading with the person that they love, the person that they really want to hear from. And that also, and this is a big thing, that it's our fault for picking up the wrong person. And that we have to take responsibility for that. So it's not that obscure spirits sometimes come through, it's that we will find it easier to pick up on the obscure spirits. The grandmother, the grandfather, everybody has a grandparent in spirit. Nearly everybody does. And so if we're not picking up on the person that they want, that's on us. And that it's okay for us to say, it's not rude to say to the spirit, look, I'm going to ask you to step back so that I can bring through somebody that they really want to hear from. Because there's no point in giving them a reading with somebody that they didn't know. Yeah, so that was something really important that I learned during this workshop. And what else here? I'll just check my notes. The depth in a reading, that was a good one as well. Depth in a reading, trust in the statements, because I found that as much as I wanted to trust, like the words that are coming through, like, can you understand a plane? And then would you understand that he's a pilot or like to travel or whatever it was? I find that it is difficult not to try and create a story in my head about why I'm seeing a plane. And again, it's one of those things that you don't really realize you're doing until somebody points it out, that I'm trying too hard to interpret what's coming through. When it's not mine. It's not mine to interpret. Like, I could say, would you understand that this person was a pilot, without even mentioning the plane thing? And they're saying no. And so that's a statement that's wrong, and something that the client is thinking, oh, they got that really wrong. They weren't a pilot. Whereas if I just said plane, they might have understood exactly what I was talking about. Maybe they never ever took any holidays except for one, and something really funny happened on the plane. So if I just say plane, then that could be it for them. That could be something really massive for them. And so it's again, surrendering to what's coming through and trying not to force myself to, like, I think your mind wants to know what's going on. It's like a nosiness, isn't it? Like, why am I seeing a plane? And I'm not going to say it unless I know why I'm seeing it. So it's just that, and I think that's very repetitive in mediumship development, but it needs to be, because we forget, and we still do it even though we know. And like, next time I do a reading, I'll still do it even though I know I'm doing it at the moment, and like in the time that it's happening, but I'm aware of it. And so it's like trying to stop myself from doing that, trying not to get too involved in the reading, and allowing it to flow, surrendering to the reading. And then the last thing is getting past my inner cringe when the messages come through. So this is something that, again, I didn't really notice that I was doing, or maybe I kind of half noticed that I was doing that. Like, when I get a reading from somebody, especially, again, it's mainly practice readings that I get from other people. I haven't gone out and booked a reading for a long time. But when I get readings from somebody, I always get these lovely messages at the end, like, your person is so proud of you, and they're so happy with what you're doing at the time, whatever job or, whatever it is. It's always like they're so proud of you and they love you so much, and they're around you all the time, and all of these beautiful things in the message, like weaved into this beautiful message. But I found that when I am giving a message, I'm getting those things come through. Sometimes it's like, oh, they want you to know they're really, really proud of you. Or they can see how strong you've been, and, you're doing really well in life, and they're really happy to see that you're doing really well in life, whatever it might be, in the different readings. I get those things come through, but I found that I was feeling really uncomfortable with saying them. And I think it's because I thought that they sounded generic. I think that when we do lots of practice in mediumship, lots of different workshops, development, and all of this kind of stuff, in the evidential mediumship side of it, I think we can get caught up in some of the rules and things that are made up around it, and trying not to sound generic with our statements. Like, do you know somebody called Dave? Dave was an example that Charlie had used in the workshop. Everybody knows somebody called Dave. And so trying not to be generic in that kind of way. But what I notice is, and I noticed it particularly in this last workshop, is that I'm holding myself back by not trying to seem generic in my readings. I thought I was doing a good thing for my readings by trying not to be too generic in the statements that I'm making, like, your grandmother loved to cook, she loved to bake cookies, things like that. Or they're really proud of you, I'm trying not to sound too generic, but actually sometimes the information is generic. Sometimes the grandmother liked to cook. She liked to bake cookies, and sometimes they just want to say that they love you in the message, and that's okay. They loved you, they were proud of you, along with some evidential information, is a massive thing for the client. And I suppose I was just realizing that I have to get past that myself, that feeling of like, oh, this is generic. This is like, not everybody's a medium in training. Not everybody thinks it's generic. You know, that the client coming in wants those messages. They want to hear that their person is proud of them. And, you know, if that's what's coming through, that's what's needed to come through. And so surrendering in that area too. And then also realizing that sometimes, and this is a me thing, sometimes I don't feel very comfortable with compliments. With people giving me compliments. Like if somebody said to me, like, I'm so proud of you, you've worked really hard and you've done really well at this thing, that would make me like kind of fold up inside. Sometimes that makes me kind of really uncomfortable. And that's a me thing to get past. That's something for me to look at. And why do I feel like that, you know? And it's a reminder that things that happen in our everyday life, the things that affect us in everyday life, the way we are in our life with people in relationships, all of that affects our mediumship. And that's just a reminder there that I had last night, that I cringe when it comes to compliments and things like that. And so when I'm trying to give a reading and a message comes through with those kinds of things for somebody else, it makes me cringe. It makes me uncomfortable. And so sometimes I won't say the things. And it's not really like a conscious decision of like, I don't want to say this thing. It's more, I'll convince myself that that's too generic, that I don't know, that's not right. I'm making that up, you know. So trust in myself while I'm doing the reading. Yeah, trust in myself in what's coming out, and just trying to, again, surrender to what's coming through, surrender into the messages, the evidence, all of that stuff. Yeah, so that was a little bit longer than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a really short video, but look, I know that when I was developing in the beginning, and even still now, you know, when I was developing in the beginning, I was always looking for more information on mediumship and what the reading should be like. So what they should be like for somebody else, or you know, how somebody else's reading goes for them, so that I know what it might look like for me, even though they're all different and we all receive the information differently. It's just helpful to see that and to see somebody else's experiences in that way. So like the video if you liked it, and, you know, share it if you think it might help somebody else, and leave a comment below if you have any questions or anything like that. And yeah, I will link Charlie's YouTube channel below, because again, it is really helpful. It is a treasure trove of information for mediumship. So go over and subscribe to his channel and like the videos if you like them, and take it from there. Yeah, have a nice day.